Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, wherever you're calling in from. Hi, my name is Mark. I'm going to be dealing with your questions and answers today. At the moment, that's perfect. I've now just got it clicked on, so it tells me that I've got a few people actually watching. If you didn't get that first bit, my name's Mark. I'll be doing the Q&A today. Very pleased to get you all coming in. Do me a favor, or do everybody else a favor. Just quickly call in, say where you're from. I will. What normally happens for a Q&A session is that nobody wants to ask the first questions. You're a little bit like penguins sitting on an iceberg, and nobody wants to be the first to jump. So I warn you now, I will rabbit on about myself until I start getting questions, and obviously your questions are much more important than what I've got to say about me and my life. So sooner the questions come in, great, and we can get on with it. I will deal with as many as I can today. I'm singularly fortunate because I'm not in any sort of a deadline for the moment, so we can let this go as long as possible. Hello, good to see. We've already got somebody calling in from India. Hi to you. Fantastic. So I've already got India, I've got South Africa, and hello from Argentina. So we've already got 3 continents, which is a brilliant start. I am from a 4th continent, Europe. I'm calling to you today from Cheltenham, which is about an hour and a half west of London, and very nice too. I strongly suggest you come here if you're visiting the UK. Okay, so again, still waiting on the questions. I'm going to just keep scrolling down to make sure nothing's turning up that I haven't noticed. I've been teaching now for 35 years. When I say teaching, I've been working in language teaching, which is a bit different because I've also done a lot of managerial work in that, been a director of studies and run a language department in a big company, things like that. In fact, already I'm recognizing 1 or 2 names that are coming up here. I think probably from having marked your assignments as well. Forgive me if I can't remember individual performances here. So 35 years in, what am I at the moment? I'm working mainly, apart from with TEFL Academy, of course, I'm working mainly with the MOD, that's the Ministry of Defence. Fortunately, teaching their international students. They don't expect me to do anything brave, which is extremely fortunate, and really enjoying that, as well as working with teacher training. Fantastic. I've now got Jamaica as well. Hello, and London. So that's the first one who's called on, who's a bit closer to home for me at any rate. So like I say, just waiting for questions, and I will deal with them when as soon as we start them coming in. If you are new to this, if this is something you're thinking of doing, obviously, you'll be doing it for a variety of reasons, whether you want to work online and make some money, or make some additional money, as a second or third income stream, or whether you wish to travel with it and go abroad. I cannot tell you what a great choice you are making by doing so. Like most people, I got into this never expecting that was what I was going to be doing several decades later, and I've never regretted it. It's constantly rewarding. In fact, just before I came on, I had, as I always do, I had a very strong coffee, which I tend to need in the afternoon before I do this. And I also had some chocolate from Kyrgyzstan, thanks to a student. So the side benefits just keep giving. And if you see our fridge, the number of fridge magnets I've got from all over the world, there's more magnet than fridge. So if that's where you're at, then that's all good. Right. So still waiting on here. Hello from Bulgaria. Brilliant. Yep. So we've got a fabulous a fabulous selection of people from all the way around, from both hemispheres, all four hemispheres, north, south, east, or west, so to speak. Hello from India, and all we need now is some questions to go with it as well. I'll just think about other bits and pieces for me. The reason I started teaching was. Okay, right, brilliant. I've got the first couple of questions. I'll just finish what I was saying. The reason I started was I was living in France, and I was hard to believe now because it's 30 years, 35 years, and about 35 kilograms ago, I was a racing cyclist, and I used it to stay in the country, as long as I could. Then, after that, I found that the English teaching was paying better than the cycle racing, and I came home. I went through university and got a doctorate, all of which I did. All of which I taught while I was doing it. So it was a brilliant supplement to what I was doing. And then obviously when I left, and I tried a few other things, and I came back to teaching, which is where I still am. Okay then. Right, I've got a few questions, so that's great. First question. Hello to Ukraine. I'm very proud to say I've taught many of your compatriots. What type of questions do I expect? I don't expect anything. Really, whatever you think is best. There's two general ones, though, I suppose, that I'd ask for. One is that you maybe ask about the assignments, if there's specifics you want about the assignments. I really only teach the level 5s. Rather than level 3. I could maybe give you a bit of help with the level 3s, but I'm not too clear on the specifics of those. Level 5 I've been doing for years. That's the first thing. The second thing is obviously talking about classroom management, and also anything to do with that, which is many. These are great. These are great. I'll just deal with one here. Should I change my password every time I log in? I don't think you need to, so long as you don't let anybody know what the password is. No, there's absolutely no need to do that. We're a pretty secure platform as far as I know. So I think you should be good. Okay then. Right. So what do I enjoy most about teaching? That's kind of about me, but that's fine. I still enjoy it. I think I'm probably lucky because I haven't spent 35 years doing it. I've done it around other things in management and here while I work with, marking assignments. So, but definitely the students, even when it's bad, and sometimes it is bad, and it's part of what you'll need as your teaching experience, as things will be tough sometimes. That's all chipping away at different parts of you as well, in a good way, and forming you into the teacher that you will become. You can't expect it all to be great. When it's bad, you think about the good guys and the rewards you've had from teaching there, and the ones who have appreciated it. And then hopefully, as you progress up and you can pick and choose a little bit more, and you work for good schools who appreciate you, you work with good students who really appreciate, again, what you're giving to them. And I find that as I get the more experience, the longer I've been doing it, the more time I spend preparing, not less. Yes, I know I can walk into classes and probably pretty much, do it off the top of my head. I don't like doing that. I want it to be as good as possible. And then the better it is, the more that you get back and the more you want to take it in there again. So if I want to enjoy anything, I'm just going to put that question. I won't put that question up, but thank you for it anyway. So I'd say what I enjoy is putting things in, because if you put them in, you get them out as well. And that's great. Not every time, but you learn pretty quickly how to do it. Okay. Right. This is one I don't have a great deal of. Experience of. But I think what you're saying here is maybe English isn't your first language, or maybe you speak it but with more of an accent, and they prefer countries that are sort of down the line English. They see English as being the first language. All I can say is keep pushing on a situation like that. You don't always get it, but you get something pretty close. And if you're persistent, persistence will pay off on this. The other thing that you can do with that, of course, is think about working online. Maybe think of other ways in, build up your CV, build up your experience in other ways. Online is a perfect example of that. And then you've got something to bring you've got something to bring to the marketplace as well. So think about, okay, if I can't get that now, what can I do as an intermediate step that will actually get me towards the place that I want, what I want to do. China, I don't know about. If you ever really get the chance to go to Japan, just go there. You'll never want to leave. It's absolutely brilliant. And sushi is remarkably cheap, which is no small thing either. But yes, if you may not know them, but there's a character, a children's character in this country called the Wombles, who clear up after everybody else. And the Japanese are Wombles, and in the best possible way, I can promise you. Just lovely people and a lovely place to be. I only don't mention China because I haven't been there, so I won't suggest I like anything there. Okay then, right. Sorry, you were among the first penguins to jump, for which many thanks. Past experience working with different numbers of students in a lesson. Couple of things about that. We'll take different number as two things. First of all, because somebody also mentions, oh, sorry, it's you as well. This is maybe a more specific way. Thank you for that. The difference between teaching 10 and 30 students. Management is the way forward. And by management, I suggest, first of all, if you've got 30 students, split them up. When I say split them up, they've already split themselves up. They'll have already gone in. The first time you go into a classroom and there's 30 students, there's going to be a little group there and a little group there and a little group there, and they're all huddled in with their mates. And again, they are also penguins in that case. So they've got their iceberg, they've got their friends, they don't want to jump. Split them up ruthlessly, get people from different countries, different cultures, whatever it is, different male and female, whatever it is, get them mixed up so they're then communicating with people that they're not that familiar with. And that's a really important thing. Part of it is divide and rule, but they'll appreciate it as well, because then they get far more out of it. They have to then start negotiating meanings. They can't jump into friendship speak or whatever. Now that is relevant whether you're speaking about different nationalities or if you're talking about a class just with one nationality. It's the same principle to either of them. If you can, now, and here's a difference between teaching 10 and teaching 30 students. You get them doing work, so you hand it out to them, because as you will know from the work that you've done, the work that you've done so far, you'll understand that unlike this webinar, a lesson is not about somebody at the front talking and everybody else listening. You're handing it out to them to get them to do the work as much as possible, get as much conversation generated as is possible. When you're teaching 10 students, something that you can do that's really important is you can get round and listen. That monitoring is one of the most important things that you do. So you're getting round, and every single person that opens their mouth, you've just got a chance to just listen to them and go, oh, that was great, brilliant. And you either say, just say this instead, or maybe you can try saying that. Lots of praise, but a little bit of correction. That one-to-one is fantastic. It's the most important thing that you will do in a lesson. It's the thing they remember, that thing that you said to them as an individual that they could take on board and take out the classroom. If it's 30 students, obviously it's much harder to do that, but you've got them in groups. And if you're doing it in groups, at least you can still monitor, at least you can still feed back to a group that somebody said in there, great, brilliant, fantastic, just think about this, or how can we change that? Encourage the 2 or 3 other people in that group to say, oh yeah, he or she said this. Can you maybe say it a bit better? Can you think of a way to do it? Let's all work together. Let's get a group dynamic and think about how to make that better. Great, you've got it. Well done. And maybe you then present it to the class because it's a good bit of language, or you just leave it as it is. So between 10 and 30 students, there's a principle that still exists, which is get in amongst them and still try to do as much individual contact as you can. Don't be the distant person at the front who's just pontificating to everybody else and expecting them to pick it up. This is a very different question. Thank you for this. The types of assignments. There's 3 assignments. I'll talk about the level 5. 3 types of assignments. The first one, and maybe some of you'll be familiar with this, is some reading texts. And the reading texts and the way that you deal with them is dealing with the different parts of this. So the first part is you deal with the vocabulary and how you would pre-teach the vocabulary before somebody did a reading text. The second part is the questions you would ask, so the comprehension questions that you would ask. And the third part is the activities that you would give students after they have read the task. Now that's 3 different texts in this case, but of course normally in a lesson you would be doing one text and taking it all the way through. The second part is teaching grammar, so it's what we call a systems lesson. So you're teaching not a skill, but you're teaching a specific way of working with something. And the third part is well, it's a mixture of everything, but it's a sort of similar thing in a way. Here you have to select your own text and see how you can work with that. And for the third part, which is assignment C, we're looking for quite a lot of inventiveness as well. How do you make this interesting? How do you get the students to work with the text in particular ways? Think also about the selection of the text that you make. Is this appropriate for this level of students? In the third part, it's high-level students or comparatively high-level students. So you need to find a good text. One thing about that text is it also needs to be an authentic text. You can't pick something out for the British Council website that's already got a load of pre-teaching and questions. You need to choose it, and you can also adjust it. So I think what's nice about the 3 assignments are that they are all, and I think it's hard for me to tell now because it's such a long time ago, but if I were a student, I think I would actually be quite involved in this. I think I would quite enjoying it. And the best thing I think that it helps you to do is it tries to get you to think about your student experience. It's not about you up the front performing. It's about, okay, how's this? So all the time, try to put yourself in the shoes of the students and think, how are they going to do this? Have a look at the say in part B, in the second one, you need to do dialogues, and you need to do 3 little dialogues to elicit the target language, so they're actually saying the target language, and then the form, so if plus subject plus present simple, etc. And so try to put yourself in the mind of the students as you are doing this. That's absolutely the way to think about this. And if you do that, doesn't matter if it's not perfect, you're actually thinking along the right path, and you'll get it right. The same will also come when you start actually teaching, that you'll do exactly the same thing. Put yourself in there. If you gave an instruction and nobody really followed it, why not think about what their experience was with that? What was the language that you were using that they weren't following? Was it just they were too excited from the previous one, and so they weren't really paying attention too much, and you tried to bring it down too much? There's always the reflection. So the assignments, I hope, in a sense, would reflect the way that you'd feel about teaching itself. Okay, I'll make this one fairly short. Yeah, I think I've kind of mentioned. Nowadays, because I work with international students, largely in uniform, who come to us. So plus I have a family. I'm not in a position to go traveling too far. And well, I would say, I'll change that around a little bit. I would say that rather than thinking about the best countries to go to, which might largely be dependent upon your own circumstances and your own interests and things like that, I would focus more on the school, and I'd focus on the communication. Before I left, I'd focus on the communication I was getting on the school, focus on the clarity that they had in the instructions and their expectations. If they're trying to sell it too much as being a wonderful, wonderful experience and not actually telling you too much about the details, treat with some circumspection. So I would say, and this is only my opinion, I would say I would focus more on the school than on the country. There's obviously individual things. If you're a complete party animal, probably best not to go to the Gulf countries. you know, if you've got family, if you've got, or if you've had some experience of the language or something like that, if you have an interest in the culture, I think that's a brilliant reason to go somewhere. Certainly, if I had my time again, I would go to Japan like a shot, and I never taught there, although I worked a great deal with Japanese students in the UK instead. Okay. This one, I'm sort of hoping that I've dealt with that a little bit. Having finished university, I like planning around my assignments, like note taking on particular ideas, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm just sort of clicking on them as in order nowadays. But I'm sort of hoping that I've covered that a little bit more. If you want to be more specific, then please ask another question, and I will see if I can get to it before we go on. Okay. Live classes. I think well, that's not so much a question. Yeah, I think I will say this. I think there's a huge number of videos of classes in existence. And if you look around, you can see them. And I think what's great about them is if you have a look at them, you can also sort of be critical. I think maybe I would say, because you're probably right, but I'm not a part of the decision-making fraternity within TEFL Academy. I would suggest that maybe you looked at lessons, because there are a billion of them online anyway, and then maybe put them against the theory that you are being given in the TEFL Academy content, and see if you can match up. I know that's maybe not a completely satisfactory answer, but I'm hoping that you can and you can do that. I'm hoping you can do that. Okay. I'm very short question. I'll just answer that one, and I think that's an excellent point. The observed practice is obviously can be important if you want to move on with these things. I don't know very much about it. I'm not involved in it, but I think that's a great question for tutor support, and I think it's also a question that we should actually put out there as well. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'll just be straight up front. Rather than ignoring it, I'd rather say that's a question I cannot answer to your satisfaction. But I think it's a great question. I think it's one that you should take further, first of all, by speaking to tutor support, who should be happy to help you on this specific point. Okay. Is it useful to teach grammar skills or speaking practice? Now, hopefully the assignments, just to say this, the assignments hopefully will help you to do both on this. Just I'll make a point about that, which is, and I remember this from 1991 when I started doing my, as it was then, the CELTA. And I remember that prior to doing the CELTA, I was sent, as it was at the time, paper in envelopes. I remember them, and I had to sort of fill in, what's the difference between. I'm sure that one of them was I went to the shops today, and I have gone to the shops today, or something like that. So past and present perfect. And I had no idea, and I found it quite interesting. It was probably good for my future teaching career. That I thought that I found it interesting, thinking, wow, I've never thought about that. And that's to do with the English teaching system, that unlike some other countries, we don't actually teach grammar. We don't teach the grammar of our own language. We know it, of course. Well, most English people know it, but we don't teach it. And so I had to learn it, and it was a slow process. And I certainly didn't have it all nailed on by the time I qualified as a teacher. So it's something that's an expectation for some people, and it's and other people it's new for them. I would say very simple grammar drills I'll just say grammar for the moment is vital. And the reason for that is the difference between what I did with English and what most people do with their own language, which is you acquire it as a child and you don't need to think about the grammar because you simply learn the patterns, and learning where you're making a conscious effort to do it. And because we're all adults, or, we have to teach as if, even when you're working with children, you do far less grammar, but nevertheless it is there, and you have to do it because you have to get people to accept those patterns and maybe learn them consciously in some cases. Grammar is essential. There are a million ways of teaching grammar that can make it much more fun than just having to, look at a board. By grammar drills, if by grammar drills you mean something speaking, so people are going, I have gone, I have done, I have been, or something like that, fantastic. It's really good. You practice so many things with that. They actually get the chance. It's a great way to, if you're talking about a drill which involves a grammar point but then speaking at the same time, it's a great way of sort of instilling the pattern in their minds. It's a great way of practicing their pronunciation, of listening to people individually, of working on, say, things like contraction, which are very, very important. I'll just bring that one up for assignment B, which is when you teach the first conditional. Of course, we don't say I have gone. We say I've gone. And it's not that that is incorrect as well. You need to teach the contraction as well as teaching the full, as well as teaching the full form. Do remember that. People often think that teaching contractions is teaching them some sort of terrible slang English. If it's English that English people, or English speakers, I should say, if English speakers use, it is correct English. So grammar drills and speaking practice can both work together. There is a process behind this, of course, because you go from the grammar, which is your you're learning the stuff, and then you're expecting to move towards production, which is using it in speech. That's why we go from, again, in assignment B, you go from teaching the form, actually eliciting the target language that they actually come up with it, then teaching the form, the concept question, so you make sure that everybody in the class understands everything that's going on within that, within the function, but then also moving forward, so they have a controlled practice where they have very limited sort of options as to what they do to create the sentences, and then free practice where they're expected to try to use it spontaneously. So we do actually have that continuum between, if you like, grammar and speaking as well. Okay, I'll leave that there. I'm just trying to. Oh, blimey! I'm about 20 questions behind. Okay, how old should one be in order to teach online? I would strongly suggest you should be 18 plus. If you're certainly according to English law, if you're less than 18, you are a vulnerable adult, and so that's not a situation that you should be in. Also have to think about protecting yourself as well. As soon as you're 18, I would certainly think about getting, certainly in England, it's a DBS, disclosure and barring service. I'm sure there's basically a criminal check. You should do this wherever you are, whatever your country is. You should really try to do that. I think that's pretty important. But yeah, long answer short, 18. Okay. The peculiarities of working there are many, many peculiarities of working as an English language teacher in a summer school. It's a great experience. Probably it's not one that you should take as being representative of what your English teaching career will be like. It's certainly where many people start. What happens is certainly, I mean, the English language teaching in this country has certainly declined. Brexit was one, but various other choices by different governments have also contributed to this as well. It's not what it used to be. However, what you'd normally expect is to work in a summer school. Frequently, schools are crying out for teachers. And so it's a great way of getting your foot in the door. I think what you have to do there is think that you are teaching people who are often less motivated. They've come across, say, because mum and dad are sending them and they've got a couple of weeks, they want to party as well. And so their involvement isn't as great as it would be. And also the teachers themselves. One of the important things I think, whenever you go to a school, is you should gravitate towards the people who are interested in teaching, who want to share their knowledge. When you go to a language school in the summer, you frequently find you've got the another day, another dollar. They've been doing it too long. They're not interested in it anymore. They do it in the summer because it pays, and the people you just want to avoid. And having been a director of studies, I'll also point out that I've had to appoint various people to posts that I've not been happy with at all, because it was either them or nobody else. So English language schools tend to be a bit desperate in the summer as well, and that can be a brilliant thing in a sense, because it means that you haven't got much experience. You can get the experience there, but make sure you are as good as you can possibly be. And I would also say, as from my managerial experience, I would be far, far more interested in having somebody who had less experience, but who was really interested to learn, who wanted to improve, than somebody with my amount of experience who was just bored and they'd done it for too long. And the students would know that as well. The students would prefer the person with less experience who was really trying hard and really had the time to give to them, than that person who thinks that they can do it standing on their head, one hand tied behind their back, and it's easy, because it's not. It never is, and it never should be. That doesn't help you to grow when you have that attitude in the first place. So I would say it's peculiarity is certainly the word, and it can be, but it can also be a brilliant experience, and you absolutely make the most of it. Okay. I couldn't really answer about apps. There are just too many of them out there. Could you, Georgie, I'm going to ask you a question here. When you say how do you build your students' base, do you mean, I'm going to ask you to maybe rewrite that one. Do you mean your base of students that you're teaching? So you go from maybe teaching 2 or 3 to teaching 20 a week. Is that what you mean? So you're talking on a commercial basis, or are you talking about their base knowledge, at which point obviously they need to proceed? So I'll just ask you that, and then hopefully I can come back to that. Right. Well, I hope you don't have to simply do it tomorrow because you're on a deadline. The first thing I will say is that, having worked with TEFL Academy for a long time, we really want you to pass. We're not here trying to trip you up. So if you do fail, and when I say you fail, what I mean is when you have to resubmit because you haven't passed the first time, look at the comments carefully, and if you are struggling to understand them, go away, look at them again. Sorry, I'm talking as if you're going to not pass the first time. There's no reason why you shouldn't, of course. Go away and read them a second time. Don't read them, think, oh, I don't understand that, like that. And then, if there's things that you don't understand, make it very, very specific and write back to tutor support, who will then pass it on to the marker. And markers are always happy to help, giving feedback. If they really want to be absolutely clear about what you need to do to pass, they're always happy to be totally clear about it. We do appreciate politeness. I mean, every now and then, and it is very, very rare, you get somebody who will write in, who's writing as if the marker is some sort of congenital idiot and has no idea what they're doing, and how dare they. And surprise, surprise, you do your best to be professional, but maybe you have a little bit less sympathy for that person than somebody who says, look, I'm struggling, can I have some help? I think you might mean this, you might mean that, could you tell me which and give me an example? Absolutely fine. We'll help and help and help. As regards coping mechanisms for anxiety, in other words, before you actually start, honestly, deep breaths. It's the same thing for me. I hate flying. I do it when we're waiting on the runway. It's the same when you go into a class, when you go in for the first time. Take your time, 20 deep breaths, and then on you go. You'll be amazed how good it is at slowing down your heart rate. And also, definitely try it bit by bit. If you think that a level 5, any assignment, look, there's so much going in, concentrate on that one bit and then try to link it to the next bit and the next, so you get a continuity throughout, because they are all highly logical, and they don't always look logical when you're not an experienced teacher and you can't see, but there's a reason for everything that you do. And just to link that back, that also goes for that idea about putting yourself in the minds, in the shoes of your students, because if it's not logical for you, it won't be logical for them, and they need to see the connections all the way through. So again, if you can put yourself in the mind of your students, you've got a good chance of actually seeing the logic that comes through and what you're doing, and that will make it much, much easier for you as well. Yes, I've got a question. Is today's session all about Q&A? Yes, there's nothing specific there's nothing specific that we need to talk about or not. Okay. Well, easy for me to say, don't be frightened of teaching grammar. I think there's too easy, so my apologies. Yeah, I think when you're teaching grammar, I think there's a couple of things that are important. The first one is that you don't need to understand the whole of English grammar. That's not a requirement. What will happen is that when you go into when you're preparing for a class, you will start really preparing that little bit of grammar very, very carefully. Now, as you're a new teacher, and this goes as well for the assignments, as you're a new teacher, the level of grammar that you're teaching is not going to be particularly high. One of the things, and again, I tried to loop things back to previous answers as well. One of the things for joining a school is that you're a new teacher. You should be in with the elementary, the intermediate. You shouldn't be in with the total beginners, and you certainly shouldn't be in with the advanced. You expect to have a good few years of experience before they put you in with the advanced. If they're sticking you in there, then this is not a school that's actually doing its duty by you in the first place. So the grammar that you're going to be teaching is not going to be sophisticated grammar. What you need to do is, again, in the mind of your student, what are the things that they need from this? And for instance, and this is a very obvious one because this goes with the second assignment, the assignment B, is if you're going to teach the first conditional, how is the first conditional different to the zero conditional? That's a big mistake that I often find. And how is it different to the second and the third? Now, you do not need to tell the students anything about the zero, the second, or the third. Your job is only the second. But if you understand what they are and how their functions are different, then it makes it much easier to understand the first conditional, which in turn makes it much easier to know what questions that you need to ask. I'll just give you an idea of this for the first conditional. First conditional, when does it take place? In the future. If it is raining, I will stay at home. Ask yourself when both of those things happen. If it's raining, is that about now? No, it's not. Single biggest mistake that people make is they go, oh, that's about now. No, it's not. It's if it's raining. If it's if, it can't be about now because it wouldn't be if. It must be about the future. So you've got one thing in the future, if it's raining, which is what we call the if clause, and then the main clause, I will stay at home. When does the main clause happen? I will stay at home. Well, it's also got to happen in the future, hasn't it? But which one happens first? It's got to be if it's raining. Which one is dependent on the other one? The main clause, if it's I will stay at home, has to be dependent. So you can see how you build up the questions here. When does it take place? How many clauses are there? When do they take place? They don't both take place in the future. Which one is dependent on the other? The main clause, I'm staying at home, is dependent on it raining. And you're done. That's all the grammar that you need. And that's helped you actually understand the whole of the first conditional in any circumstance that you wish to use. So if you're finding it confusing, it's probably because you're overcomplicating it, which is a very, very natural thing to do. And just remind yourself, it's all pretty simple. And as soon as you get that, then you just pick out the big stuff. Again, in the mind of your student, what do they need out of that? They don't need huge reams of examples or anything like that. They need the basic idea of the function. Okay. Right. I have an English degree. Great. I'm sort of studying English GCSE at the moment, which is the one that you do at 16, because my daughter is studying for that, and I'm getting a headache with it, I'll be honest. I would say teaching young learners, I would say. I think you've got to be, I would say, before even you do that, decide for yourself if you're suited to it. I am utterly unsuited to teaching young learners and children. I can't do it. And I'm in awe, and always have been in awe, of teachers who can do it. When I was running a summer school, we had the junior school and we had the senior school, and I would always make sure I was in charge of the senior school, and somebody else could deal with the juniors. It's yeah, good for you, but I think you need to make sure that you are suited to it. And if you think, yeah, this is something I can do, this is something I'm comfortable with doing, then brilliant, go for it and take the teaching young learners. Remember, whatever you do, you can always go back and upskill. I mean, the glories of online learning, including the TEFL Academy, of course, is the fact that you can do it while you are working. You can do it in and among other things as well. Are there opportunities to teach online in the UK? Yeah. The wonders of the internet are that you can teach anywhere. I think the fact that you're maybe based in the UK, if that's the case, can be really useful for you, because, again, people rightly or wrongly think that you're in the UK, you're a native English speaker, this is what some people want. If you're not that person, if English isn't your first language, you should never be discouraged. But yes, there are opportunities. With teaching online, I think you really need to work out the angles, because unfortunately now in some cases there is a race to the bottom, and there are people offering their services for £4 an hour. Forget about the quality. Feel it's about quantity over quality. So there are plenty of opportunities, but you've got to be careful with them. The normal stuff that you do for pretty much anything nowadays. Look at Google reviews, look at teaching sites to see what they have to say about particular employers as well. Are they prompting their payments? Are they delivering what they say that they will in the adverts? And it can be useful. Some of the things that I have experienced, not at first hand, were, for example, working with business people. Sounds great. And then when you dig deeper, if the business person cancels, you don't get paid. There was no big question I had there was no 24-hour cancellation period. They could cancel 5 minutes before, and you didn't get paid. So that was the deal that they struck with the companies that they were working with. And of course, that landed on the teacher, because the teacher might be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to teach, to find that there was no lesson. And in my experience, business people are obviously very busy, part of what they do. And if they have the opportunity to cancel with no financial penalty, they will do so. So that kind of thing, kind of work out what your limits are on that, and what you can put up with. Okay, great. So a solid network of students based on commercial purposes. Nice one, because we can link this back to what I just said about teaching online. I think a couple of things you need to do here. That if you want to build up your network of students, first of all, work on word of mouth. So be very good at what you do, and keep working to improve what you do. Keep reflecting on what you've done to improve it. And I would say also, you have ground rules as well that you set out very clearly from the start. And one of them can be, it doesn't have to be 24 hours, it might be 12 hours, but you have a notice period. So payment in advance and a cancellation. One of the things for that is, I suggest, if you're going to do free trial lessons, you make them very short, because people will ask for 1 hour free lessons. And of course, they can go around the whole world asking for 1 hour free trial lessons and just constantly just get free lessons, and you'll never hear from them again. So if you're going to do trial lessons with somebody to see how they are, go with your feeling on that one. And secondly, make them short, because you shouldn't be there giving away freebies. But above all else, I would say make sure that you're good, because that's by far and away the best way of building anything. Work with people who you think are going to be kind of beneficial to you, and don't be worried about walking away as well. I think that's kind of important as well. Some people will string you along as much as possible. They have one excuse after another as to why this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened. You can just say no. And I think if you set yourself up quite high, then people will come up to your level. If you bend to people's will, then yeah, that's the best way of finding that there's nothing, that you're going to get next to nothing. Also, I think value yourself as well. If you start off by charging an absurdly low rate, people will take that as an expectation, and you can't blame them. We're all, nobody is fantastically rich at the moment. So have a certain estimation of your own worth, but try to balance that with the fact that you want to gain experience, and move on, and keep trying. Just because you've got a certain number of students, keep always looking for more, because you'll lose them, they'll drop out. That's not their fault, that's just life, that will happen. Okay. Right. A mixed age group, 12 to 15 years old. That's not terrible. That's not based on what their mother told me. So this is, I'm just guessing that this is you, and feel free to come in and just say correct or otherwise. I'm guessing that by this you're looking at something that is maybe just 2 or 3 kids. If you can, I would suggest try to get them one-to-one. So if their mum wants, say, an hour with the 2 of them together, or the 3 of them together, or whatever it may be, then I would suggest try it, see if it works, and then maybe gently suggest that they will get more out of a short, intense one-to-one than from a longer period of time, especially if it's 2 boys. Who will start kicking off a little bit. They're much better one-to-one at that age, even face to face, as well as and certainly online as well. One other thing about that, and it just goes back to an earlier one, in terms of safeguarding, always remember, it doesn't matter where you are, you're teaching children, anybody under 18, you keep the open door policy. That means the door is open, and you make sure there's a parent or a responsible adult in the house, in the building at all times. That's protect you as well as to protect the children. Scarily now, I remember being in France when I first started teaching, back in the 90s, and I even sort of makes me shiver now to think that I would be going into the houses of 12-year-old kids, and the parents would be going, "Great, you're with them for the next hour. We're off out." That shouldn't be ever happening. Open door policy, responsible adult in the house at all time. You are an English teacher. You are not a creche or babysitter. Okay. Okay, yeah, opportunities come. To be honest with you, I don't think that's so different. One of the reasons for always being, even if you're not that happy with the circumstances, to be as good as you possibly can is, once you're as good as you can be, the opportunities will come. Maybe not immediately, but they will come. And like I say, through social networks doesn't have to be simply online. Of course, it could be word of mouth if you're working in a particular town or something like that. I think anything like that will come if you are good at what you do, and if you are diligent at what you do. People will forgive, as I've said before. People will forgive a lack of experience. They won't forgive a lack of effort. And I think that's a huge difference. Okay. Yeah, thank you. This is a nice quick one. Yes, there are word counts. Nowadays, when you get the template for every single one, it's really clear. It didn't used to be. I started doing this 6-7 years ago, and it didn't used to be. You used to have to look at the content to see exactly what was required in the actual lesson, in the lesson plan that you were writing. Nowadays, those templates, at the top of every template, it will say exactly what you need to do. Obviously, you need to have learnt sufficiently from the content, from the online content, but once you download that template, it will say this is the limit, 500 to 700 words, 300 to 500 words. It will be perfectly clear about this. Yeah, I'm a primary school teacher starting the course, so great. You've got a big leg up on most people by doing that. My personal experience, no, it's not easy to teach young learners. I think it's a very different skill set. As I get older, I like my students to be as good as possible, and the higher they are, the happier I am with it. Yeah, there is certainly a market for this. One big market that's now gone is China, because so many parents were basically sleep depriving their kids in China, that the Chinese government moved to stop having online lessons. If you are starting, and clearly you're not, but I think maybe this is good for anybody, I would say if you're starting, kind of like the perfect student would be a fairly low-level adult. You want somebody who's bringing something to it, that you don't have to be the singing, dancing person at the front, keeping their interest. They're there because they want to be there in the first place. But yes, certainly there is a market for young learners. I think in some ways it's a tricky market, and the reason for that I say that is because I think it's very difficult to go into people's houses and teach a very young learner for an hour. It was never something that I found particularly rewarding, and you could be struggling. But of course, if you're going to somebody's house to teach, you need to be going for at least an hour to make it financially viable. So it kind of does depend on your circumstances as well. Older kids is often better because they have their own motivations. That obviously they might be doing it because they've got to pass exams, baccalaureate or whatever in English, and so you can be there to help them. Okay, so there's a question here about I think a particular app that I haven't used, so I'll pass over that one as well. The short answer to that one is yes, they do. However, if you've got a high level, you should be absolutely fine. If you've got a high level of English, they would probably put you with a lower group, which again would not be anything particularly. There wouldn't be anything terrible about that. So that would be absolutely fine. Okay, let me see what I've got here. Apologies if I sort of start jumping around here, because I've got quite a lot. I think this is a good one, because I can give you a nice short answer. No, we have AI detectors. Just so you know, just to be clear, because it's a good point here. As you know, I'll give you an example for assignment B, where you're teaching the grammar. You will have to submit 2 templates. One template has the materials on it, and the other is the main template that has the lesson plan and the dialogues and things like that. The main template, which should be all you, has a maximum of 30% AI or plagiarism, and you'll see that there are two little indicators of the percentage in that. The materials can be 100% AI, can be 100% plagiarized. We're quite happy for you to go online and go, okay, that's the right exercise that I need. We will judge that. They will judge that on its merits, because of course when it comes to a lesson, you would be doing that. You'd be taking exercise online or from the course book or whatever else. So the materials can be plagiarized, can be AI, can be whatever. The template has a strict limit. The same with assignment C, where you have the text. Of course, I know that's not actually your question here, but that text must be authentic and not an AI text that you have created and then sort of like stripped for parts or whatever you need. Okay. Okay. Best way to get online work. If you're going to eat with the devil, use a long spoon. As I said before, there is a race to the bottom in some ways with this. So I just go very, very carefully, check online comments, be absolutely clear about what the conditions are. And the other way that you can do this, of course, is to do it yourself, which is great. You don't pay a percentage of anything. I think a lot of people would start online by actually maybe teaching, and then maybe, students, you might teach face to face, and then the student said, I'm leaving the school now, but stay in touch. I might have, something like that. And then from word of mouth. So it can be very organic, but there is no best way, but there is most certainly, there is trusting your instincts to make sure that you don't get into a situation where you're working for very little, or you're working for nothing, or as we mentioned before, or you're working for people who will cancel at a moment's notice and then you don't get paid, which is clearly unfair. So I'd say the best way is maybe to start little, but to make sure that you have everything absolutely clear as to what your expectations are as well. This is not a boss and servant relationship. Anything online is two equals, and you are providing a service, and you will provide a very good service, but you expect, you have high expectations back as well. Okay. Right. I'm just trying to see if there is anything else at the moment. Yeah, I think also Heather, I think the same. Really, I've got the same answer, because Heather's also asked, where's the best place to get students? And very often, again, word of mouth, or simply go online, but use your instincts, and don't feel obliged to jump into things for the sake of it. As we all know, the internet is full of the wrong kind of people everywhere. It's either full of people who are trying to get something for nothing. This is not the way that you operate. So try not to rely on it. And who knows, there may become a tipping point. I'd say teaching online is a brilliant way to make supplementary income. And if you're enough of a success of it, maybe it will become your main income. But that's not going to happen overnight. And there's two ways that it won't happen. One is if you don't bring your A game to what you do. And the second is if you try blindly trusting everybody, that they'll do what they say that they're going to do, and that they, cancellations, etc., as I've already mentioned. Okay. Right. Yeah, sorry, Stephanie, I've got a question about possible that I can change to level 3. I'm trying to see the top part of that, and I'm afraid I don't think I can for the moment. I'm sort of trying to jump up, and I'm also just trying to see if I have missed out anything. No, sorry, I can't see the rest of that. I think I have pretty much covered everything for the moment. I'm going to jump forward to something, but I'm still here, so Q&A, of course. Please note this. You can look back to see what else there is. And on there as well, there should be plenty of, I believe there are quite a few videos, teaching videos as well. So it's not just somebody telling you how to teach, it's actually seeing people teaching. If not, the internet is full of them. Right, I'm just going to jump forward lastly to this. I'll be very grateful if you would have a quick look at this. Just obviously, if you can just take that on, and then any feedback was very much appreciated. Meanwhile, while you're doing that, also very happy to answer any further questions. I've had nothing in for a little while now, so I'm guessing it's all good. Okay. Otherwise, I'll leave it be. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you next time. Always, whenever I say thank you, goodbye, and always about 3 more questions comes up. So a more sensible person than myself would probably just get off now and quit while the going is good. But I'm more than happy to answer anything further. But I'll just give it another 5 seconds, and then. No, thank you. That's absolutely great. So have a great afternoon, remainder of evening, morning, wherever you are calling in from. Many thanks. Great questions, much appreciated. And I hope that I have my responses have been of some benefit. How do we get to the survey? Now the survey should be on. It should be just up in front of you at the moment. So if you just scan the QR, that should do it. Stephanie, yeah, I've just got very last one here. I'm on level 5. Can I change to level 3? Probably, yes. That is a question absolutely for tutor support, who always, for any kind of logistical issues or anything like that, they are the first port of call. They're very good, very diligent, and they should be able to help you with that. As a marker and instructor, obviously I don't have the authority to talk about such things, but yes, ask them, and at least you'll get a straight answer, and you should get a pretty prompt answer. They're very, very good at getting back quickly and clearly with whatever you need. And that goes not simply for asking about stages, that's about anything at all. I will repeat what I said before. Make sure that you are polite and, if possible, specific about what you are asking. One thing that does kind of irritate markers, myself included, is when you write extensive and you think well thought out responses, and you've put a lot of thought into it, and somebody just comes back and says, I don't understand. And you're thinking, I really think this one's on you, not on me as a marker. Okay, I'm not sure how you can liaise privately with people who are on the course. As far as I know, there are not any kind of groups for people to get together who are studying. The reasons for that are 2. One is collusion, the other is revolution. They tend, as WhatsApp groups so frequently are, they tend to be taken over by the people who are unhappy about this, that, and the other, and they're not really particularly healthy environments. Again, if there's anything like that, please speak to tutor support, who might be able to help you. If 2 people write to tutor support saying, I want to contact this person, and somebody else says, I want to contact this person, you've both got the matching email, so to speak, that you're trying to get in contact with, or sorry, matching names, I should say, then you might be able to do it. But I'm afraid I don't know about anything like that. Okay. Again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed this afternoon, as I always do, and thank you again for the really good and occasionally challenging questions. Much appreciated. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Thanks ever so much. Take care. Goodbye.